It's interesting that I live in a country and I live in a world where the wrong people have fear and the people who are in the wrong don't have any fear. We see this with groups that support terrorism. We see this with groups that endorse terrorism. We see this with a party in the continental United States that has supported, legalized, sanctioned genocide of 61 million children through the vehicle of abortion, using cute terms like choice, reproductive rights, women's choice. And what is interesting and what is lacking in that discussion is that it isn't choice. It's choice for one, but not the other. That's how you define the word hypocrisy. Calling it choice when a woman who is selfish and doesn't want to be burdened with the decision for opening her legs at a bar on Friday night wants to just murder a child with a heartbeat. And to listen to the US media talk about that it's a fetus, the unborn, a heartbeat is not unborn. Only in America do we give it terms like fetus, tissue blob, infant, toddler, babies. But that baby, when that heart's beating, that's a life. If somebody in the US were to grab a pregnant dog or a pregnant cat and throw it off a bridge into a canyon, the outcry by the same women who endorse abortion about that dog splattering on the canyon walls would be strong. What is interesting is that you cannot reason with fools. There are several groups of people you cannot reason with. I'm going to name some of them. Brainwashed people that believe lies. People that believe only what they're spoon-fed by their leaders or the ones that they claim to respect. Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, a large section of the African American community in the United States, Democrats, atheists who hold to the belief in evolution, calling it science. Nothing scientific about it. But you can't tell them that. Palestinians, Muslims, certain Middle Eastern countries have a mindset that doesn't sync with the rest of the world. The Muslim, the terrorist mindset is not copacetic with rational, factual, truth-based thought. The Palestinians have been a political football for a long time, created by the Arabs. And please don't fail to notice no other country wants to take them in. While they scream and yell about Israel, Iran has made no offers to take them. Egypt doesn't want them. Palestinians, to me, are like the gangsters, the gangbangers of modern American cities with gang boys running around raising hell and killing people. And I've listened for the last week, the BS coming from Democrat media, ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS, NBC, CNN, NPR, and all the other shitball news media outlet, alphabet soup, three-letter network, dog shit organizations. They long ago left professional journalism. It is KGB style Soviet television telling you what they want you to believe. Open brains, insert mush. Shut head, carry on. If you don't support spherical heating, you don't believe in science. If you don't support evolution, you don't believe in science. If you don't support the Democratic Party, you're a danger. You're a white supremacist. You're a danger to this country. You don't support democracy. Now, get this. If this isn't enough madness for you, take a look at the LGBT for Palestine. Talk about an oxymoron. Palestinians don't tolerate gays at all. They will throw them off of buildings. They will run them through and kill them. And liberal LGBT open heads, insert mush people are now pro-Palestinian. Our government, the citizens of our country have voted in 4 very dangerous people. AOC, a Hispanic woman married to a white guy, but hates whites, hates American values, and is as dumb as a stump with termites living in it. Ilhan Omar, a terrorist supporting anti-Semitic woman with an attitude, voted by the dumbass state of Minnesota liberal politicians and liberal voters. Tlaib, a pro-Palestinian, crazed woman that waves her Palestinian flag, scary that America would elect enemies to be at the helm of our government. If we were a normal country 50, 60 years ago, all of them would have been removed and said, nope, we're not doing this. Not a word from Nancy Pelosi, not a word from leading Democrats about the atrocious behavior of Hamas. They refuse to call Hamas a terrorist organization. In fact, if you look at the proper pronunciation of Hamas, it sounds like a loogie being hawked up. What a bunch of jerks, all suited up in their military attire, and they have no conscience. They hate Israel just like Nazi Germany did. And it's interesting to listen to American Democrats call Donald Trump Adolf Hitler. Trump didn't endorse any of that kind of stuff. And you've got Hamas doing the same thing that Adolf Hitler did. Not one Democrat is calling that out. They like to call whites Nazis, white supremacists, and they're not calling out Hamas. Ignorant LGBT people in the U.S. are getting behind Palestine. They go over there, LGBT people, knock yourself out. See how long they embrace your ass. No pun intended. America is imploding with stupid shit. Whether a boy wants to be a girl can use the girl's bathroom or not. Major corporations like Dayton Hudson Corporation, which is the owner of Target, which sells boring, stuck-up, middle-class white women clothing to women that think they're all out on a stick, that have no passion, that have no feeling, that are just, they love their dog and they love their house and fill their house with crap, and they're not the kind of people that Pacific wants to be around. And they decide to make a statement saying that the bathrooms should be used by anybody. Any man that has a daughter does not want some man dressed up as a woman going in there and peeping under the stall. And I don't blame the dad. It isn't that people can do these things. It's that they want to ram it down our throats. We're supposed to embrace it and fund it. In America, they had to put Jewish synagogues on police patrol because of the fear of the day of rage. Anytime a movement is wrong, they always create fear. They threaten. They threaten to disrupt society and people's lives. And Iran is running its mouth. The UN is running its mouth. Turkey's running its mouth. Democrats are running their mouths. Let me ask these morons one simple question. What did any of the above do to stop Hamas, end Hamas? Not a damn thing. I'm going to tell you, Americans, you better take your brains and retrieve it out of the toilet, because you flush your brains when you listen to the so-called logic of these loonies on the left and fail to take into account something. Israel was minding its own business, and 5,000 rockets come flying over, and paragliders descend on a concert, a soft target. Hamas is not men. They're cowards. Terrorists are always fucking cowards. They blow themselves up in a bus in Haifa. They blow themselves up in a bus in Tel Aviv. They fly their planes into the trade towers. They don't face the music. They don't take on military targets. They take soft targets. The Olympics in Zurich, the Achille Laurel cruise ship, the tough Middle East Muslim mind terrorists that take a white man in a wheelchair and shove him off the ship. Yeah, real men. Pussies, all. They don't fight by rules. They want to yell and scream. Iran and all of them want to yell and scream. The UN wants to say, Israel, when there's a war, there's rules. Oh, okay, UN. Okay, you really stopped Hamas and their bullshit, didn't they? The UN has no business being over anybody. There's something called national sovereignty, and we've got elitists like Zuckerberg, like rich billionaires, like Oprahites and Bilderbergites and Gateites and some rich pansy-ass men like Rockefellers and Rothschilds and others sitting back there pulling strings because they want to fuck with people's individual rights, while they sit on piles of wealth and know nothing about the word suffering, while they want to inflict it on humankind. And American men and women will not stand up collectively and put these clowns in their place and break the noose off of our neck. The United Nations should be tossed out of the United States. Their buildings should be turned into high-priced condos. It's interesting and ironic and hypocritical that the UN on the corner of its building has a Bible verse, they shall beat their swords into plowshares and no war no more. Silly, isn't it? Nothing about the UN is scriptural. Nothing about the UN is God-centered. Nothing about the UN has anything to do with the plans and heart and mind of God. It is the Tower of Babel. It is a bunch of silly men and leaders that want to make everybody into one, standing against the Almighty. Don't miss this. And as far as Palestine goes, may I politely remind the Palestinians of something. God said it a long time ago. Ishmael, Abraham and Sarah didn't believe that God would give them a son, and Sarah thought she'd help out God by allowing her husband to sleep with Hagar. The next time somebody tells you that their sin isn't hurting anybody, you look at them and say, BS. I and every single person around the globe is paying for the sin of Abraham and Sarah when you go to the pumps. When you go to the pumps with this bullshit going on in the Middle East, and they want to blame Israel and malign Israel, just like the Democrats are still blaming Trump. Now they're blaming Trump for this stuff in Israel. And that just blow you away? It's amazing how much stuff the Democrats try to pin on Trump, and he had nothing to do with this. Biden has weakened national security. Biden has weakened and destroyed the economy. Biden has weakened Americans' individual rights, and Biden is a criminal. He and his son are criminals. Not a damn thing is happening to either one of them. Not a damn thing. But the drumbeat against Trump goes on and on and on. God said that Abraham and Sarah would have a son. And it wasn't to be Ishmael. And God had a prophecy about Ishmael the Palestinians need to remind themselves of. He will be a wild jackass of a man. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand will be against him. Boom! The Middle East. The Arab world is not a friend of Israel. Let's make that very clear. It goes right back to thus saith the Lord. And for all those Allah Akbar chanting fools in the streets that were celebrating a German woman half raped, dragged through the streets. You're not men, you're pussies. And why would you think that people would want to convert to a silly God like Allah who condones violence and hatred and destruction? Whereas the God of Christianity stretched out his arms and died for everybody, including Muslims, so that they get saved. Silly people, Allah doesn't exist. It's a figment of Muhammad's imagination. Ishmael's descendants are living in Gaza. When you sin and do wrong, God forgives, but the consequences are the stone in the pond with the ripple waves constantly affecting people. For silly us in the West that think that God just forgives our sin and it's all over, he does. But the consequences of those sins have ripple that keep going and going and going long after we're gone. Abraham and Sarah did something that kicked off a global struggle. You can't go to the Olympics. You can't go on a cruise ship. You can't go on a flight. You can't go to an office tower without feeling the effects of Ishmael. Can I make it any clearer? And the Arabs used the Palestine debacle to create the shit that they wanted to create. Let's put them over there. Let's put them right up against Israel's borders and they can just be jackasses and constantly harass Israel. Now, the truth is, liberal Democrats and Palestinians, is that you morons sat over there in the West Bank, sat over there in Gaza and fired shit and Molotovs at Israel decade after decade. I came into the world watching this crap. And you put your children in front of you, being the brave little pussies that you are. And you put these children in front of you. And then when Israel finally, after using restraint, sends a volley over there to end it, then the liberal silly media and Al Jazeera TV and the young turds, I mean the young Turks, who know nothing about Israel, weigh in and say, oh, look. And that's the Democrats. They set up the can of gas next to open flame. And when the can of gas blows up and goes whoosh, and somebody tries to put it out, the one who puts it out is the bad guy. If you don't believe me how detrimental and dangerous the Democratic Party is, look at what happens in the U.S. when there's crime. Look at what happens when fools don't know how to drive cars and cut somebody off. And guess what we're told as drivers? Oh, don't do road rage. Meaning don't even honk at the fool that just got 2 inches in front of you. Our Democrats want us to tolerate all that. In California, they're trying to pass laws where it is forbidden for store employees to stop a criminal. Huh? That makes sense. How? And these Palestinians, if they think Palestine is so great, What the fuck are they doing in America? What the fuck are they doing in Sydney? What the fuck are they doing in Austria and France? Hello, can you hear me now? You morons, you left because it's a shithole over there. So what if Israel turns it into a sea of melted glass? You fail to realize, you Palestinians, you poke the bear's going to get up one day and go, I don't give a shit about what the media and Al Jazeera and Yabba Dabba Doo, Scooby Dooby Doo, Allah Akbar TV has to say. Fuck these people. They're out of line. They've crossed the line. They have been crossing lines for decades. And our media, run by silly white journalists, silly, all talk the same, look the same, wear the gaudy makeup and the same suits, and they all are scripted and prescriptive, and yep, that's right, yep, news speak and geek speak, and all act and think the same, and all report the same bullshit narrative. Oh, and Israel killed all these children today. And now listen to the Palestinians. That's a lie. Babies didn't get their heads cut off. That's a lie. Show us the pictures. Doesn't that sound reminiscent of when the troops finally busted into Germany after they smashed Hitler's power and they got into Birkenau and Auschwitz and they found deplorable stuff? Does anybody remember what Truman said? If it was Truman, I could be wrong. Take pictures, because the day may come when they say it never happened. They got pictures. One of the U.S. delegation or whatever that went over here last week to Israel saw them himself. And if you listen to the Palestinians, they don't give a shit about an Israeli life lost. Cheering in the streets like a bunch of thugs with pickup trucks going, sounds like the gangster mentality that riot here in the U.S. The older I get, there's only two threads that run through life: the devil and God. And the Middle East Islam religion is from Satan himself. And they call America the Great Satan. Iran has done nothing to stop Hamas. And then this dumbass president gives them billions of dollars. You think they're not using that money to fund our very demise and fund more attacks on Israel? You bet your bippy. The Democrats should never give a dime to a Muslim terrorist supporting nation ever. That's a no fucking brainer. I have had comments come flooding in. I would use you like a rag doll. Yep, that's all you can do when I speak truth. Criticize the person. I don't know why men are looking at my hair and my looks. What are you, gay? And why are you judging my looks? You should be judging a female's looks, homie. But I see what's happened in the last week. I got a friend living in New York dating a Jewish woman, and she's afraid to put a menorah in her window because there's a lot of Palestinians in the New York City area that are just belligerent. We can always tell when something is evil. We can always tell when the devil is nearby, when people are suddenly afraid. People who believe the truth should never fear. People who believe a lie should be shaken in their boots. And what did I say years ago on YouTube? We talk about being Christ-like, but sometimes we need to study the attributes of Satan so that we can recognize when something is going on, whether it's of him or of God. And Satan has an ego, and Satan is the father of lies. And people who follow him are going to spew lies. Our media, our Democrats, the African-American community at large, atheists and Palestinians in the Muslim world. They all believe lies. They don't believe in bedrock scriptural foundational truth. And no matter what this laughing, mocking, secular world says, God's word is true. Let every man be a liar. God created this earth as he stated in Genesis. There was evening and there was morning. First day. There was evening and there was morning. Second day. Nothing about billions of years. Nothing. And to listen to the silliness of evolutionists. Oh, you're going to tell me the earth is only 6,000 to 10,000 years old? I'm going to tell you that. You use a hypothetical, fucked up dating system called radiocarbon 14 dating, which operates off assumptions, not facts, assumptions. They pick up a rock. Oh, well, it's got the half-life. How do you know it's not the eighth life, the quarter life, the three-quarter life? Assumption. You weren't around when this happened. How can you date it? I can look at architecture. I can look at a vehicle and I can go, well, that's from the 40s. But how can you look at a rock and say when it happened? So you hypothesize and you pontificate and you make theories. And the theories are so grossly out of step that atheism is a religion, that evolution is a religion of the damned. And why did evolution come about? Because Darwin and other atheists had a problem with the fact there was suffering in the world. If there's such a God, why is there children killed in a plane crash? Well, atheists, you're going to have to dig deeper than that. That's not an airtight case to prove that there is no God. It's an airtight case to prove that man sinned and we set into motion a virus that infected the hard drive of creation, where children get killed, where Muslims believe false crap and terrorize the world with their so-called chants for Allah Akbar. It goes on and on. Why Democrats line their wallets and spend billions and billions of taxpayer money on foolish stuff like the Ukraine and insist that we must get involved, and they want to stand against Russia when the Democratic Party is operating exactly like the former USSR, censoring things, controlling the media, controlling the education system, controlling the entertainment you get via Hollywood, which is political leftist, and Americans can't see this? I post stuff on Facebook where I live that is highly offensive, but it is the truth about people groups within the United States. I'm going to say it again. When you stand on the truth, there is nothing to fear. No, you're not going to have lots of friends and be popular and your stuff isn't going to go viral, but so what? Look at what goes viral on the internet. 2 black women beating the shit out of each other. Some woman showing her tits. I mean, let's get real. The truth or accuracy of something cannot be determined by the number of likes and hearts it gets. It has to be determined by a more accurate barometer. Palestine is in the wrong. Gaza was handed back to them by Israel in 2007, even though the original 48 UN agreement was for that to be their land. But the powers that be wanted to put the Palestinians there, and they're still claiming they're refugees. My ass, they're refugees. And refugees of what? Arabia that kicked their asses out? The rest of the Muslim world that doesn't want them? The Palestinians are unable to think on a deeper level. They're just emotionally driven, insane people that believe. And then they voted in Hamas. And then they wonder why they're getting the shit bombed out of them. It's like, well, let's go over this again, Klaus. You threw 5,000 rockets. You beheaded babies. You raided Israeli homes that were at peace, not doing anything to you. And now you're wondering why your buildings are laying in ruins and you're told to get the fuck out of North Gaza. Could it have something to do with your dumb actions? Oh, wait, but you've got an excuse for that. Well, this has been a long step. They weren't doing anything to you. They allow your own moronic people to come in and work in Israel every day and make a living. Israel's not the hater. And people like Mark Dice and others are getting on YouTube who I used to respect. I shut him off. His arrogance, his ignorance is dripping. I'm done with Mark Dice. Oh, it's interesting that people are taking sides on a long-standing religious dispute. This isn't a religious dispute, big guy. Do your study. This country's over here doing its own thing, and they suddenly get attacked without provocation, without warning, and the UN is complaining that 24 hours is not enough time to move 1 million people. Oh, okay, UN. And how much time did the concert goers have to get in their cars and get the hell out of there? How much time did the homeowners in that one region close to the border have before their babies had their heads chopped off? You know, UN, you're a hypocrite. Shut the fuck up. Iran, shut the fuck up. We know what's going to happen to you, Iran. We know what's going to happen to Russia and Turkey, too, and the young Turks. You can celebrate this. Your countries are going to be turned back and destroyed. Because in Ezekiel 38 and 39, you will all join together and come against Israel one day. And God says, I will turn back but 1/6 of thee. Meaning the whole conflagration, only 1/6 is going to survive. God is going to have a come to Jesus moment with the Muslim community, and they're going to be eradicated. God does not share his glory with no other. God does not share a throne with Allah Akbar. God is not a God who's a tyrant. Islam is a male-dominated religious system that treats women like property and will stone a woman caught in adultery while they'll celebrate a man cheating left and right. Islam is not a religion of peace. The Quran doesn't teach that. And we have ignorant Americans who've never read the Quran, never studied it. We have ignorant Americans that have never read the Bible cover to cover to say, oh, the Bible's bullshit. Have you read it? Well, okay, I can't hear what you're saying. Pull down your pants because I can't hear you. And I am cynical. Well, that's not very Christ-like. You're absolutely right. Thank you for reminding me. I'm human. And I'm done negotiating with foolish thinking, which is darkening the streets of America, which is ruining our economy, ruining our gas prices, ruining Walmart and our stores so that you can't even buy things affordable because all the jackasses stealing because of the wonderful jackass party whose symbol is a jackass said defund the police. And guess what? Walmart's pulling out of deeply entrenched black neighborhoods that have had a long-standing history of violence and crime, especially on their own color. But, you know, we're privileged. I'm privileged. I'm a white supremacist, according to them. Really? How come you're killing your own people more than white people are killing your people? How come black people use the N-word with each other, but if a white guy says it, they're ready to scream racism? They still haven't answered my question. Truth is powerful. It's a greater sword than a bomb, a sword, a gun. And if you speak the truth, you will be hated, you will be threatened, you will be maligned, and you will be torn up, and you'll be shot and killed and dragged in front of lions and thrown into a lion's den and dropped in hot boiling tar, and all kinds of lovely things will happen to you because the world at large is afraid of the truth. You either stand with Israel or you stand with the devil. And the Palestinian world is literally rife with demons. First off, you believe in a false God, which is no God. Secondly, you support terrorism. And the fact that the Democratic Party and Tlaib and others will not call this crap out ought to scare every American that we let these fools be in power on these shores. Biden is a jackass. He created the instability, which gave the Muslim world the boldness to go ahead and try. And people are very angry, but Netanyahu is the only one I've seen showed up to be a man. I respect Netanyahu. I wish I had a dad like Netanyahu. I wish I had men in my family like Netanyahu, but I didn't. I had men that laid on their fat bellies watching football and barked out commands. I had a dad who was disinterested in me, and his own wife wore the pants and ruled all over him. My mother was not a nice woman. And when I look at Netanyahu, he's a decisive man, doesn't shrink back. And Israel needs a leader like that. So does America. But America would rather vote in a geriatric who's done 47 years of absolutely nothing for the good of this country than have a Donald Trump or a real leader in office. You cannot reason with Democrats. You cannot reason with malcontent African Americans, and African Americans are not the same as Africans. Let me make that clear. I have friends in Africa that are way miles ahead of most African Americans here. They speak 3 languages. They have jobs. They have nice homes. Come out here where I live and look at the way they take care or don't take care of their houses. Look at their work ethic down here. Look at everything down here, and you'll see it for yourself. It is self-evident. And they sit there and shit talk whites all damn day. Palestine, you probably don't remember this commercial because it was in the US, but you asked for it, you got it, Toyota. You fucked with a country. You fucked with innocent people that had nothing to do with your axe to grind. You hate Jews. And even interviewing women screaming at journalists, we don't care, we don't care. I don't care if a bomb hits you either. Now I know why God told the Israelites to wipe out the Amorites, the Jebusites, the Perizzites, and the parasites, and the Muslimites, and the Palestinianites, and all these hostile hate breeding, and your children that you're raising to hate and teaching them into believing in a false God. And I'm supposed to cry when Palestinian children get hit? No, I don't. I work with students, and I see the hate that's being inbred in them by black moms who dated black men who fucked her and left her, and they, for some reason, hate whites, and whites are bad and evil, even though whites pay the lion's share of their EBT cards and their housing assistance and government programs, because the black men sure as hell are not contributing to this anywhere near the percentile that Caucasians are that go to work every day and get taxed. And when you finally wake up that there are obstinate, hateful groups, brainwashed groups that believe they're the only ones, the Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, Palestinians, blacks in America, believing a lie and living according to it. You cannot reason. You cannot get through. It's going to take a Damascus Road experience like the Apostle Paul, where God just stands in front of them and says, you. And American governing people allowed this to happen. That's why our government is doing foolish and crazy things. There is no longer checks and balances. There is no longer effective leadership, not even in the Republican Party. It's a joke. They're wussies and cowards too. And we even have rhinos. You know there's something wrong with a country that elects Nancy Pelosi to be his speaker, a woman who's pushing socialism, a woman who took her mask off in a hair salon and got caught, and she can't speak the English language correctly. Dishwasher, shut up. You need to shut up, you alcoholic. and your husband's doing bend over tricks with that guy that supposedly broke into the house, even though the glass was broken out of the house and not into the house. Silly rabbit, Mr. Pelosi. I'm not a detective, but I've broken windows when I was a kid. And when you break them, the glass goes in the direction that you're hitting it. Actually, when you hit it, it's going the opposite direction from where you hit it. You're dumb. I don't know if you were wearing bras and panties and you guys were playing around, but it backfired. And you cannot talk to these filthy rich Democrats. And Dianne Feinstein died. She sits on billions of dollars or millions of dollars in a mansion and a Learjet. Yeah, these people had a hard damn life, didn't they? While they're trying to strip us, trying to tell us you will drive an electric vehicle. That is not the place of the federal government at all. I hate to break it to these Democrats. So we have our own Palestinian terrorism right here in the Democratic Party. And it makes sense that the Democrats would align themselves with Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS, Palestinians, and all the groups that hate God. And I brought Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses. I wouldn't call them violent, though the Mormons had their share of violence towards each other and the Native Americans back in the day. And I do not like Mormonism, Sam I am, at all. Mormonism is a false religion. Jehovah's Witness is a false religion. They're cliquey, they're elitist, and their so-called places of worship have no windows in them. They're very much like Masonic temples and Shriners, and Americans had better wake the fuck up about the stuff you've been supporting because it's satanic evil. You know, those little hats that the Shriners wear that everybody thinks is cute when the old men drive those little cars. And it's amazing how America is so duped that Satan can come in like an angel of light and they drive those cute kitty cars and they're raising money for cancer and burn research for children. Oh, well, they're doing something. Yeah, while they're promoting a lie. You know what those hats are called? Fezzes. Do you know why they're called fezzes? Read your history about the Moroccan city of Fez. When the Muslims came in, they told the people to convert from Christianity to Islam or else. They refused. Do you know what the Muslims did? You know what the nice Muslim people did? The peaceful religion did? It cut open the women's bellies, pulling their kid out, and they took their white hats and dipped it in the blood and put it on their head and shouted, Allah Akbar, and cheered and waved. That is demonic. Americans are the most illiterate damn people in the world. They'll listen to a bunch of bullshit on the media all day long, but they won't read, study, and search things out. They won't check to see what the source is of their information. They just believe it and suck it up like porridge. Like a dog licking a spilled biscuits and gravy on the street. You don't care it's on the street near a sewer manhole cover. And Americans are that dumb. They'll slurp up anything the media dumps in front of their face. I don't support Palestine. They need to get the hell on out of there. But Egypt doesn't want them. If Palestine can't wake up to the fact that they claim to be Muslim and Arab and the other Muslim and Arab nations don't want them, you think that they would suddenly feel very alone and go, maybe we've done the wrong thing. Maybe we ought to mass surrender and say, okay, we'll help you get Hamas out. We want peace, but they won't do it because they're full of Satan. They're full of pride. They're losing their shorts over there. And Hamas refuses to surrender. And you get on the internet, Hamas is willing to stop, but Israel lies. There's so much lying organizations all over the media. There's no checks and balances there. But the Democrats want to control anybody who says the truth. They're doing it with the so-called spherical heating movement. Every scientist, and I want to say something, People who believe in evolution and spherical heating are not scientists, they're opinionists. Do not confuse science with actual data supporting fact. Data supporting fact, factual stuff, and science go together. Theories of speculative bias is not science. And we're being taught in this country that we need to worry about spherical heating. And I have to say that word because Google, much like, any group that doesn't want to hear the truth, if I say the other word, they'll censor the video and shut it down. So much for freedom of the press, which is what Democrats fight for, except for me, except for people who believe the truth. And everybody ought to read the book of Revelation, because you can say, well, I don't believe. Go ahead. Believe whatever foolishness you want. It doesn't make it so. And when you die, I promise you this, you will know that you were wrong. You will know that there is a God, and he's going to say, depart from me, I never knew you. But if you're really worried about the end of the world, if you want to know how it's going to end, read the book of Revelation. Don't sit in some Democrat-led university that's filling your head with spherical heating is the greatest danger to man. When I leave my house and I get in my truck every day, the greatest danger to me is the fools that they give driver's licenses to. Fuck spherical heating. The greatest danger is people who believe lies and support it. And Tlaib and all these flag-waving Palestinians, get your ass into Gaza and stand up for your people. Don't stand there and protest hate and spew hate in the U.S. Go over there. Be the big people that you think you are. I'm not trained in military stuff. But if Israel had their back up against the wall and said, we will fly anybody here that can help us, and we'll tell you what to do, I'm going. Really? Yeah, because if I die for that, I die for a worthy cause. The more I see this world, I'm okay with dying for the truth. These people protesting, these young women that do not know a damn thing other than TikTok, social media, and their narcissism, I'd like to see them go up against the IDF. That would be comical. I'd like to see them stand out there in Gaza and not be shaking in their boots. It's easy to yell and scream and protest and tie up traffic and make a scene out of everything and make a horse's ass out of yourself. But why don't you put your butt over there and defend your brothers and sisters in Islam? I have no sympathy for Islam. I have no sympathy for Palestine. I don't need to. The only thing I pray for them is they better have a come to Jesus moment, because if they end up getting killed, they're going to die a second death and be lost in eternity in hell. They like committing acts of terrorism and doing the horrible things they do. Well, they can suffer for all eternity. That'd be a fitting end for them. I don't feel sorry for them. They made a choice. They made a choice to bring in Hamas. They made a choice to harbor Hamas. They made a choice to cheer when innocent civilians that did nothing to them were killed and beheaded. And now they're all boohooing in the UN, and everybody wants to say, oh, this is it. Fuck you, UN. Mind your business. You have no business over the sovereignty of another nation. None. Why don't you go and stop Russia? Why don't you stop Iran? Why don't you stop all these other countries that are violating human? Why don't you do something about China and all their slave labor and the way they treat their people? Huh, UN? Because you won't. It's interesting that out of all the countries in the world, everybody wants to tell Israel what to do. Why is that? Because Israel is the apple of God's eye. It's the center of the universe on this earth. God's not done with them yet. And it's funny to watch all these nations that are controlled by the devil want to tell Israel what to do. Benjamin Netanyahu does not need to listen to Joe Biden or anybody else. He needs to be the commander-in-chief he is, and he needs to lead his country valiantly into battle. And we need to pray that Hamas is ended once and for all. That's it. I'm not going to sit there and get caught up in the poor little children that are killed. Obviously, the Democrats didn't care about the Israeli children that were killed, and they do not care about the 61 million children who were killed in the U.S. Hypocrisy is defined by the left. Hypocrisy is defined by pro-abortionists that want to support Palestine and say, look at all the children. Hey, American women, look at all the children you killed in the name of abortion. Those were children, not fetuses. They were not unborn. They had heartbeats, and you will be held accountable by the living God for murder. You broke one of the commandments. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not murder. All these women that think that they're so much better than men. You had an abortion. You are guilty of murder. You violated one of God's commands. Can you be forgiven for that? Yeah, if you confess it and mean it. It doesn't matter. If people want to laugh at you and mock you for your stand, America's not believing the truth. The Democrats don't believe and teach the truth. The media isn't truthful based anymore. The public education system is always pot stirring blacks against whites and saying how terrible we are while the kids continue to fuck around in school. I talked to a school teacher the other day who's a friend of mine, and she's trying to run her class, and she had a meeting with the parents in another classroom, and the black kids in the other classroom were being so loud, the black teacher's yelling at them for them to be quiet and sit down, and they're raising hell in there. They go running through the halls, and the principal gets on the intercom, you need to stop running through the halls, and the kids are going, ah, doing whatever they want. This is America, man. They have no control over these damn kids here where I live. They're out of fucking control. And I watched this chaos in Palestine where they thought they were having a great day. These minds in Palestine are fucked. They're chanting, cheering. They're macho, such male bravado to terrorize a German tattoo artist and other people celebrating a victory, and then a day later watching their big buildings come down and it looks like Beirut, and now they're crying, pissing, and shouting. You dumbasses, what the fuck did you expect? What the fuck did you expect? And that's the mentality of Middle East Muslim terrorist supporting nations. They sit there and throw rocks at windows and do shit. And when somebody finally reacts, oh, look what they did. Dumbasses. Every action's going to get a reaction. And what did you think was going to happen? You poke the bear and I hope the bear slices and slashes and ends your bullshit. But it will never end until God reigns. It will never end because all the military in the world and in a time in history is going to surround Israel and the Valley of Megiddo, and it's going to be ugly. And no matter what this secular dumb world says, the American country is failing as we speak. And during the end times, it doesn't sound like America's even going to be a player out there. The Democratic Party will be gone. The U.S. media will be shattered. And the nations will still have a hatred for Israel. So you believe the horseshit you want to believe. The Bible always brings it back to what is important to God. And Israel is going to go through hell. The Bible's very clear about that. And for those Jews that don't believe in the New Testament, it's already prophesied in the Old. Read Zechariah, read Malachi, read Daniel, read Ezekiel, read on. It's all there for you to see. You got some hard days are coming, folks. Mark Dice is trying to make this, the Republicans. I don't support Israel based on the Republicans. I support Israel based on what God's word has to say. Mark Dice is another talking head out in YouTube land that does not start in his day with the belief and existence of God. He thinks he's the end of all means and the means of all ends, and he's the sum total of everything because after all, I got a following on YouTube. It's a heady thing. It happens to all of us. Just because I agree with a YouTube artist on all this doesn't mean I got to get line and step. And I watch people, one of his own fan clubs start attacking me. Ha ha ha. Are you a Zionist? Are you a Christian? Ha ha ha. And that's kind of Mark Dice followers you got. Bye, Mark Dice. Block your page. But done. I'm not going to listen to you. And this is where I stand. Anybody that's pro-Palestinian, you can get out of my life, out of my Facebook, out of my world. No apologies. I don't need to. Y'all have a nice day.